Hello, and welcome to People Keep Dying, the podcast where we talk about people who die. I'm your host, Stephanie.
And I'm Angela.
All right, so I didn't get to say this because you just went right into the last episode. But I actually saw a dead body on my way here today.
What, you did?
Yes, and I wanted to make it be a part of now our podcast is legal, and it saw a dead body. Yeah, no, it really was. It was someone coming out on a gurney. Someone died in some house, and they were bringing the gurney out, and I was like, "That's unsettling." As I'm about to go talk about a murder.
I mean, I seen a dead body on the floor of the streets when I was in Compton once, but I don't know if it was dead. It was just very lifeless.
Oh, maybe it was a mannequin.
No, it was
definitely a mannequin.
It was definitely a person.
I've seen a lot of. I shouldn't say I've seen a lot of dead bodies. I've seen a few dead bodies, but the most gruesome one I ever saw was in a car accident, and the dude's arm was on the ground, and there was blood everywhere.
How did you see that?
Because I was 2 cars back from this gigantic accident.
Oh my gosh.
And I saw the person running over to the car and opened up the door, and the dude's arm just fell to the ground.
That's so crazy. Oh my gosh.
17?
I shouldn't sound
17 or 18.
Sound.
No, listen, there were people who get so excited about seeing dead bodies. I was just this is horrible. Me and my selfishness, my whole day is ruined. Never mind the person that just died or their family or anything like that. But it was yeah, I will never be able to get I can still very visually see the blood splatter on the front dash, all the broken glass, and then the door opening and the arm falling off the dude onto the ground.
So crazy.
And it was just,
I wonder what happened for his arm to fall off.
I don't just, in my mind, I think when you sit with your arm sort of out the window, maybe it was a situation like that, and then
it ripped out somehow. But it was inside the car. So.
Yeah, but they maybe it fell down. I don't fucking know. The arm came off. It was just,
that's so crazy.
The most insane thing. That was probably the most gruesome thing I've ever seen.
I've never seen anything that gruesome ever.
But
I don't think.
Other than that, it's just mostly been gurneys and people with sheets over their faces, and I'm sure I've seen a lot of people die on those fail videos, which I watched one last night that just rocked me to my core.
That's Nick's favorite kind of video. He loves fail videos, and I can't watch some of them because I'm I can't.
It hurts. I feel physical pain when I see someone else hurt, and it's just
you just when someone crushes themselves.
You need to add in the 3 seconds after where you just see that you just need to show me that they got up.
I know. Just show me that they're speaking to you and they're just still alive.
One of my favorite ones is the girl who's on the stripper pole. And then she's going down, but then she falls on her face, and then she sits up. She's I'm okay. But then she touches her face, but the camera zooms in, and she has this horrified look on her face as she starts touching her body to make sure that she's actually alive. That's my favorite one because her face is just so perfect.
Because it's exactly how you would react to. Did I die?
And then you have this moment of wait, am I
actually okay? Yeah.
Everyone always has that moment of just am I alive?
Am I bleeding?
Yeah.
Did it break
the pain
something?
Hasn't quite kicked in. Okay, so this week I'm doing a poisoning.
Ooh, is it a woman?
No, surprisingly not.
Ooh,
surprisingly,
gender role switch.
I know. I was actually it was honestly one of the part of the reasons why I did it was because guys don't normally poison. Guys don't normally poison like this.
Yes. Sometimes to disable someone, they'll poison them so they can do other stuff to them.
And I don't necessarily know if you would consider this poisoning or sedating. I sort of feel like he was doing a little bit of both. Well, anyways, no spoilers. But I came across this story because I had come across a different article about a writer, a European author, Sherilyn Kenyon, who writes for the Deadman Cross series, and she had released a monthly newsletter, which she always does, and in this she basically outs the fact that last year, when she had gotten really sick, her husband had been poisoning her. And
Oh, I think I did
yeah.
read this actually.
I talked to you a little bit about it. He had been poisoning her really slowly, and he had been paying off like the maids, because this woman was successul and she was rich.
Yes, I did
People
remember the
had
story.
been tampering with her food, and luckily she eventually started out with her doctors, and then she found out, and now she's going through this process because her husband, they're clearly trying to get a divorce, and her husband's trying to get claim to everything.
Well, he tried to kill her.
Yeah, trying to kill her for her money, and now he's trying to take her money by taking like her copyrights and stuff like that, and saying that like, well, I'm married to you, so I'm owed all this different stuff. And
well, he tried to kill her, so no longer.
Well, that's how I look at it. But
yes,
while reading about this lady, I came across another lady who wasn't as lucky.
Didn't survive.
Wasn't as lucky in this situation. So we're going to talk about Helen Bailey. And Helen Bailey was born in Pontland, which is a village in Northumberland, England. And as a young girl, she began writing in her diary regularly, talking about who did what with whom and her experiences in the world.
She was a big gossip, sort of?
No, she just liked to write about her life.
Okay.
And it was more like her experience in the world was how she wasn't a part of anything that was like sort of going on. Like how like these people are doing in this, and like she basically talked about how she had no part of it, and it was just how she started writing teen angsty stuff.
Pretty typical. Yeah.
She attended Thames Polytechnic, which is now called University of Greenwich, for physiology, with the intention of becoming a forensic scientist. But right before undertaking her postgraduate at a teaching hospital, she changed her career to work in media and began licensing and marketing campaigns for characters like Rugrats and Garfield, as well as Nintendo and other major motion pictures and TV shows. While working as a temporary secretary, she met John Sinfield, who was the head of a licensing rights company, and the two married in 1996. Helen began to write more and eventually would go on to release 5 teenage angst books in the Crazy World of Electra Brown series. Life at the Shadow End, which was released in 2008, Out of My Depths, Swimming Against the Tide, Taking the Plunge, Falling Hook, Line, and Sinker, which, I mean, those are all titles of like, I can just picture the covers.
They're like rom-com-y.
Yeah.
I love rom-com novels, by the way. Like, I love them, so I get it.
Great. In 2010, she was nominated for the Queen of Teen Award by the Book People, and she also wrote books for younger children, doing like some storybooks, and all in all, she had 22 short stories, picture books, and young adult fictions published. So she was very successful. Things were looking very good for her. However, in February of 2011, while vacationing in Barbados, her husband drowned while swimming, and Helen was devastated.
No, that's so sad.
Yes. They had been together for over 22 years,
Oh my goodness.
and she went through a very rough grieving period after his death.
I don't blame her. That's so fucking depressing.
And just like completely caught off guard. Like they were on vacation. I couldn't imagine like losing my partner now. And I know you always talk about like what you do if you lose Nick.
I would go fucking bananas crazy.
Add another 15 years of you guys together and
even
like,
more bananas crazy.
Just more. It's like so heartbreaking. So she had a really rough time afterwards. She began writing on her blog about her grief and her journey through it, which was described as a painful and companionable account of coming to terms with life without her husband. Eventually, she would turn this into her first adult novel called When Bad Things Happen in Good Bikinis, which... Oh my god!
I love that she took a little humor in there, but oh my goodness.
That book was released in 2015. So the book was released 4 years later, because I was like, she wrote a book within all of this stuff happened within a year after her husband dying. This is really weird, but no. The book was released in 2015. However, in that book, she starts talking about the budding romance that she started with a widower named Ian Stewart that she had begun seeing in October of 2011, which was 8 months after her husband passed.
I mean, some people grieve differently.
Yes, some people grieve differently. I was very like, that seems really quick. However, Ian Stewart apparently was love bombing this girl.
Oh.
So we're gonna go to.
And sometimes you just want to get over your
Yeah.
grief and move the fuck on.
Sometimes with your grief, you need to have a companion. Like she had a companion for 22 years. She probably didn't know how to be on her own. So we're no judgment on Helen Bailey.
No.
So Ian Stewart was a 57-year-old software engineer who studied at Cambridge. When his wife suddenly died, he quickly moved on after meeting Helen online in a Facebook bereavement group. Attracted by her mass amounts of wealth, he started love bombing her, which is a reference that everybody just kept saying.
Love bombing.
He loved bombing her, and I was like, what
Like
the hell
doing
does that
everything,
mean?
like, doing all the big gestures.
It's basically an attempt to influence a person by demonstrating that like large amounts of attention and affection onto someone.
I feel like if you have a giant amount of wealth, you should always be you should be wary regardless. But if you have money, it's also an extra thing.
She was grieving. She was missing her husband, and here was this person who was showering her and loving on her, and he was probably real good.
He probably was
at being manipulative.
You watch enough of those movies and stuff, you learn a lot from them.
So he goes after the grieving and lonely Helen and quickly moves into her home with his 2 grown-ass sons, who are Jamie, who's 24 years old, and Oliver, who's 21 years old, which is just red fucking flags all over the place for me. Before long, Ian had convinced Helen to make him her beneficiary for her $3.3 million fortune.
No.
Which in today's money, which I mean, it's only been a couple of years, but is worth nearly $4 million US.
No. If someone's automatically,
it hasn't even been a year.
I'm not even on Nick's life insurance policy. I told him that because he's gonna die after me. Then
I'm the beneficiary.
I told Nick he's gonna die after me, so it doesn't matter.
Oh my gosh! You have to have at least a little bit of prudent planning.
He got it before he got it right when we got together. So he obviously has like his mom and stuff, his dad, I think, on there.
But you guys are married now, so it would go to you anyways.
We just never changed it. Regardless, I wasn't really worried about it.
Yeah,
no one in his family. Everyone in his family was very sweet, anyways. They're not. I'm 100% sure.
No, they wouldn't leave you with nothing.
But either way, I plan on dying with him, so it's fine.
Yeah. I don't think Helen planned on dying anytime soon.
No.
And if she did, she probably would have done it after her husband died. But I mean, regardless.
She didn't have any children.
No.
Herself? Oh, okay.
So on April 11th in 2016, Ian Stewart calls the police and tells them that his fiancee Helen has gone missing. He tells them that she had left earlier on that day to take their dog Boris for a walk and never returned. However, he also stated later that a note had been left behind saying that she was going to go stay at her holiday home in Broadstairs.
Could he just have been just happy the fact that he had a sugar mama who's taking care of him? Like, I don't understand why he had to do all.
I don't know, because he wanted her money,
but
and
he still had access to it.
If you kill her, like if you leave her alive, she will keep working and keep producing more money.
And then you guys can both live a very wealthy and happy. She'll think that you're not a terrible person. But
that's not what he wanted. He just wanted the money.
That's so fucking disgusting.
Yeah. But it's so he says that she ran off to the holiday home, that she had left a letter saying that she was going off to the holiday home, but it is later established that she had never been there. Helen's family would later go on to describe her disappearance as out of character because it really wasn't anything that she would do. And the police also found it perplexing. Unfortunately, Helen wasn't able to be located and the trail goes cold. 3 months later, the police are still frantically trying to find this woman, and they eventually decide to go back to the house and do an extensive search for anything that would be helpful. And that's when they find a hidden hatch to the cesspit in her garage in her home, which is, oh my God, a sewage container.
Oh, okay.
So what are those called? They only refer to them as cesspits. Oh, septic tanks.
Okay.
So there, for whatever reason on this property, there was a second septic tank that was hidden in a garage. That now he didn't build it; it was something that was already there.
That's kind of weird.
I guess one day when her brother had come by the house and she was walking, showing the brother her home, she had pointed out the cesspit and had made a joke about that'd be a really great place to hide a body, which
That's the kind of joke I would make.
I would make that joke. I make that joke all of the time. Anytime I see someone pulled over on the side of the road, I'm always just like, that person's hiding a body in that forest.
Whenever someone is pouring cement on anything, I'm thinking
there's a body in there.
I'm thinking you're hiding a body everywhere.
Because we've heard stories about them finding bodies in
everything. So that's why I always assume there's a dead body in everything. It's not. Yeah.
So they find a hidden hatch to a cesspit in their garage in her home, and when they lift the lid, they see an arm sticking out of the human excrement and muck. Ian Stewart is then arrested on the spot and brought into custody. A few days later, the police confirmed that the bodies in the septic tanks were Helen and her dog Boris, and that Ian was charged on July 16th with the murder and perverting the course of justice and preventing a lawful burial.
So why did he have to kill the dog?
Because apparently it was to make his story more reliable. She never went anywhere with her dog.
Okay.
And so if she was going to go missing, the dog
has to also go missing. But then,
it was basically to track his story.
I was hoping that all the wealth would go to the dog, but I guess it won't happen anymore.
No, but her dog was basically her baby.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, all of her wealth should go to her dog.
Yeah. So he was remanded to custody in October 12th, 2016. He pleaded not guilty, and his trial began in January of 2017.
You know what? He fucking did it. I'm so tired of people being like, I'm not guilty. You fucking did it.
Yeah.
Don't move.
Yeah, but no, because he's got plans. Like, he thinks that he's going to be able to talk his way out of this. So it turns out that this trash fucking human, Ian, had been drugging Helen for at least 3 months prior to her death.
And she just wasn't dying.
Zopiclone sleeping pills. Mm-hmm. So he was sedating her. And I don't know if there's a big difference. Like, I look at that's poisoning.
Yeah, that is poisoning.
You're putting something that she didn't know in her body to alter her state of mind. And her mother testified that her daughter had been acting very strangely and that she knew that she was acting strangely. She was always complaining about how tired she was. On her computer, they were finding Google searches about, why am I sleeping so much? How do I stop myself from sleeping? She was spaced out most of the time. She had walked out of a supermarket holding on to an item scanner. She had left her dog at a beach one day, which is something that she never would have done. Helen had even said that at one point she was sitting at her computer and she couldn't even recognize her own hands. And that's when she started to get very concerned.
And on top of that, it's like, you're not going to suspect this person you think that loves you.
Well, the mother was very uneasy about the relationship because it was very fast. New. It was very fast. And the moms felt, now this is all coming out in court. So it's obviously probably a little tainted.
After the fact, yeah.
But the mom felt that the husband or that the boyfriend was taking advantage of her daughter in her grieving time.
Because, but even if he wasn't, she might still think that way because, I can see where,
so she was already a little bit uneasy about him. So the prosecutor stated that Ian had been sedating her and then suffocated her and the dog before tossing her into the cesspit, although they also stated that she may have been alive at the time when she went into it, which they
didn't find it in like her lungs maybe, and that's why
they just weren't really sure. They just said that it was possible that she was still alive when he threw her
awful
in. Which I just like, I just can't. I didn't mention anywhere like necessarily how he killed the dog. I didn't really want to know.
No.
At first, I didn't really understand like why I killed the dog, but then I read a later article that said like she never went anywhere with it.
And that makes sense.
Makes sense. And because it fed into his story. So prosecutors argued that he killed the dog in an effort to make his story more credible, that she had left. And while he made every effort to look like a concerned, worried husband, Ian was doing some really shady shit, which luckily is what ended up getting him caught.
Good.
So first and most significantly, Ian had turned on her cell phone the day that she went missing, which they believe was a few days after she had actually died. And it pinged off the house's Wi-Fi. So if she had gone missing, why is her phone dinging your Wi-Fi?
Yep.
Unless it's already in the house. Then Ian attempted to use power of attorney to sell property that Ellen owned. The first time he attempted to do it was the same day he reported her missing.
Jeez.
By stating that Helen was too unwell to attend in person and if they could just fax over the signed documents.
No.
Later, after it had already been established that he was missing, he attempted again to sell some property in order to get some money. Also, on the day of her disappearance, Ian ordered an increase on his allowance that Helen was paying him from $600 a month to $4,000 a month, which I just looked at it like, what were you planning to, like, what? That is such an, like, he already had access to all of her money. I don't know why he increased payments into his own bank account.
Because he's
like, instead of,
he's scum.
yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
He's total fucking scum.
Yeah. So the jury got to visit the house and they were shown like the property and the hidden cesspit, and was informed by prosecutors that after tossing her in, Ian covered it up and then drove his car over top of it so that people wouldn't look there. When the police came by, it wouldn't look suspicious to have a car there.
Mm-hmm.
So he covered it with the car so that people wouldn't look there, and then basically sat back and laughed at the police as they launched a nationwide manhunt to find Helen. They also played the 911 call for the jury, where when the 911 operator asked Ian to describe his missing fiance, he couldn't even remember what eye color she had, her phone number, or her birthday.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I can see how in 2017 he may not have like known her phone number
Yeah.
offhand. And I know like most guys like don't really remember birthdays and
Yeah.
like dates and stuff like that are not very good. But like her eye color, like you hadn't even been dating her at this point you guys have been together for 5 years. You're engaged. You supposedly love her a lot. I can't believe that
there aren't that many eye colors for you to be confused on what her eye color is.
Brown.
Yeah.
And then like try to cover that lie up later. She had like, think about what her hair color is. Like he didn't know how to describe his fiance. That's like a little weird. Ian tried to claim that he was innocent. He claimed that 2 men by the names of Nick and Jay had kidnapped Helen and her dog Boris while she was out walking. Then they told him not to tell the police or she would die, and that they demanded $500,000 in ransom money, which is why he was trying to sell all the properties and increase his allowance. But it's like, what were you going to do? Just fucking hold on to that $4,000 for the next 15 years until you racked up the $50,000 to be able to pay the ransom? What? No. Oh my gosh. Like you're so dumb. So he claimed that he had spoken to her. Then he also claimed that he had spoken to her on a cell phone owned by one of the men, which is how he's like claiming the like cell phone pinged off. But he said that it was the dude's phone.
He was better off just saying, I found her phone.
Yeah, like probably, but that would have made more sense. But the prosecution was having none of that. So they track down these 2 men that they think that he's talking about, which was Nick Cook, which happened to be their current next door neighbor, and then Joe Kipolo, which happened to be a neighbor from his previous home before he had moved. Ian stated that he did know both those men, but they were not the same men that kidnapped their wife.
Just the same names.
Just the same names.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just Nick and Jay.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
So when the prosecutors gave their closing statements, they really nailed in hard that Ian had grossly deceived Helen by taking advantage of her so that he could inherit her fortune. But his lawyers argued back that the prosecutors had only highly speculative theories and what possibly motives could he have had to kill his fiance, who he loved so much. And it's just like, the money.
Obviously money, because you literally try to get money out immediately after.
Her body probably wasn't even cold before you were transferring those funds over into your account.
So obviously money. Obviously.
the money, the $4 million, and who knows how much more that he probably would have been able to like get. But either way. So on February 22nd, 2017, the jury found Ian Stewart guilty on Helen Bailey's murder and was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 34 years, meaning that he'll be 90 years old by the time he's even eligible for parole.
Good.
But that's not all, because on August 21st, 2018, the police arrested Ian Stewart again in questioning of the suspicion of his first wife's death.
Because it was mysterious death as well.
She apparently suddenly died of epilepsy back in 2010, and there's currently an ongoing pending investigation on that.
Oh my goodness.
So it's very possible because he gained, I think it was almost $50,000 off of that death. It was a life insurance policy of $33,000 and then some other some other funds from that wife's death. And people just looked at it like he was money hungry, like that he was just money hungry. He
didn't have to kill his second wife though.
No,
he didn't need to.
He didn't need to.
She provided him with everything he needed, and he was just a piece of shit.
But maybe it was a situation where he probably couldn't keep it up. I don't know. In my mind, he had it good, and
he did.
He ruined it, and
I want to know what the trigger was because he was with her for a long time too.
But he had been poisoned. He was drugging her for
3 months.
At least 3 months. They only know about it for the 3 months. They don't know what was happening before that. And he's just never happened. And then
fuck you.
Yeah. So that's my story on the death of Helen, who was poisoned by her husband, probably for making more money than him.
Or just in general, just for money.
Yeah.
Doesn't even matter.
It was just for money. But Sherilyn Kenyon, the person who is being poisoned by her husband, that one was because she was making more money.
Yeah, that was. I did see that one. That was such garbage.
Total crap.
Lots of guys I know will be very happy to be a kept man. Let's be for real. I know a lot of guys were like, 100% would be okay with that. I don't know where these guys are coming from. Where they're like, no, and I'm like, listen, you can just make more money if you feel.
If it bothers you that much, if it makes you feel that inferior, go find another woman.
Yeah,
you're the one that
find
tracked
someone else.
This woman down.
Yeah, go find someone else. If you feel that inadequate, just leave and find someone else.
Or hey, buddy, how about you just go write your own book and try to amass your own millions of dollars.
I don't want the very rich woman to be with that man anymore, though. So I'd hope that he just leave. But then I guess she'd have to give him
he would probably
half her wealth.
Well, they weren't even married yet. They were just engaged.
Then he just really just had, oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was living it up. He had and it was 5 years. It wasn't like he had only, he did a long game.
Yeah.
But there was probably just something going on. I don't know what the trigger was because he denies it all the way to the fucking end.
Maybe she started realizing something and she was going to leave him and he just
liked to kill his wives.
Or soon to be wives.
Well, yeah. Reportedly, it's not proven that he killed his first wife,
but he for sure killed that second.
Yeah, for sure.
So going to my story, this story was really hard for me to write because I had heard this story so much when I was in high school. It was very close to where I went to school. And it was one of those stories that we just talked about a lot. And it became a movie, and I'll mention the movie at the end. But okay, so there's a 17-year-old student named Stuart Tay who was from a family of means. His father was a doctor and had moved from Singapore to an 8,000 square foot custom made house in an exclusive section in the city of Orange, which is a pretty it's not like Malibu, but it's definitely still a really nice neighborhood.
An up and coming nice neighborhood.
Yes. And all of this happens in schools that are kind of similar to how I went to school, where it was mostly predominantly very, very Asian.
Okay.
So Dr. Tay moved his family to the U.S. and provided them with luxuries for a more prosperous life. He was one of those parents who just kind of gave everything his kids wanted because, yeah.
What was that like?
So Stewart was a former Boy Scout, an honor student at Foothill High School, and a founder of the Asian Culture Club who had hoped to attend a top-ranking college in the following fall. He told his teachers that he wished to be a doctor like his father, and while his early admission application to Princeton had been deferred, he hoped that his high school resume would be enough to ultimately admit him, because he was a really good student and he had every Asian person that I went to school with basically had this resume and this background, not the rich background as much, but like the very went to is going to a very good school, has really good grades,
expectations,
very high expectations, because that's what you grow up being told.
Yes.
He was one of the last people you would expect to be seduced by the idea of committing a crime, but usually that's what happens. So he soon met 18-year-old Sunny Hill High School student Robert Chien-Nan Chan, and they created a scheme to rob a computer parts dealer in Anaheim, California. And Robert was also from a good family. His dad was an engineer, he was an honor roll student, and aspirations to go to a good university. So they had a very similar background of like good family, lots of money, whatever, but it doesn't matter. You still want to steal shit, you still want to steal shit. So despite their very normal lives, they both yearned for respect. Stewart boasted that he was a local crime boss, lord who sold weapons, and Robert was telling his classmates and anyone that would listen that he had ties to the Huaqin, which is a national Chinese mafia. They're like the Chinese mafia in America, I think, and maybe China as well. But yeah. So Robert had previously threatened to shoot up the home and beaten up a fellow student because that student had apparently said disparaging remarks about the Huaqin mafia. So he had
nice.
a temper, he had a very violent streak about him
explosive violence there.
But there was never any concrete evidence of Robert or any of the Sunny Hills students having ties in the mafia. The police officers were we've never heard of anyone being involved in that mafia from this area, but it's one of those.
That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not happening. It just means that the police don't know.
And I think just to quickly review it, the gang element wasn't completely implausible, as Asian gangs are different from other gangs.
Yeah.
They dress conservatively, do well in school, hold jobs, don't have tattoos or spray paint or graffiti their neighborhood.
Yeah, because their parents can't ever know.
Yeah, and it's because most gang turfs are turf related. It's this is my turf, but not Asian gangs. They're criminal enterprises. So they basically get together to commit robberies and burglaries. That's usually what the Chinese mafia does, which is my only real idea of what that's like is watching Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was getting a Fast and Furious feel too, but I was just
I'm that's all I could think of.
I can't sit here and be like, so are they stealing cars and stuff like that?
But I think, but I think that's what I think that's what the Chinese mafia is more about. It's the criminal element and not this is my turf. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Robert recruited 4 of his other schoolmates to pull off this crime because they needed more people. So he recruited Abraham Acosta, who was 16 years old, Kern Kim, 16, Mun King, 17, and Charles Choi, 17. And they're all boys and they're all teenagers and they all went to the same school except for Stewart, who went to a different school. So none of them had any prior criminal records or any sort of disciplinary.
How did he recruit them then?
Because they were friends. He just it are his friends, and when you have that kind of attitude, other friends who will follow you.
Friends of friends that just got together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Soon, the 5 Sunny Hills high school students started becoming suspicious of Stewart and found that he had lied about his age and his name because he had said because you said you liked fake identities. He said his name was Martin Gore, which is actually the name of the keyboardist from Depeche Mode, his favorite band.
I mean, anybody can have the name Martin Gore.
Yeah. He could have been adopted. You don't know.
I mean, well, it's just...
And on top of that, he went to a different high school, so they kind of knew each other, but so at that point he became it was
you're gonna go based off of what that person said their name is,
and that's it, and you don't question it.
Same with the neighbors on my story.
But then they became afraid that Stewart turned them in, and because Stewart knew all of their real names, but they figured out that he had been lying, and so they're well, shit. So they hatched a plan. And you know what that plan usually leads to, because this is the right podcast for someone dying.
Someone's gonna die. There's always a plan to kill someone. Why are we always having people that plan shit out?
Well, it's not murder unless you plan it. So on New Year's Eve on 1992...
Woo, New Year's Eve.
Stewart told his parents that he had some errands to run and left in his Christmas present a cherry red Nissan 300ZX, which is a rather nice sports car.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Merry Christmas.
really
Here's a
pushing the
car.
fact that he comes from a very well-off family.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he doesn't need...
They have the means.
There's no reason that he has to go steal things.
No, it's
a compulsion.
It's a compulsion, and it's what's the word? Oh my gosh. It's like acting out.
Yeah.
It's like it's how he's gonna act out, because like
he's been such a good student,
he
and
can't
he's
act
model
out
in every other way. So this is his way.
But this is allowed, and it's like it's his version of acting out, because like in a lot of cases they don't need the money, and it's not about the money.
No, it's not. It's just about doing something bad.
Yeah.
And so the errand that he said he was
alive.
going to go do was to meet the Sunny Hills students, and that's how I'm going to describe them, because the rest of them are all Sunny Hills students except for Stuart Tay.
Okay.
And they were meeting at the Buena Park residence of Abraham Acosta, and the group was meeting in the backyard. And this all kind of happened in like my general neighborhood. Like, I went to school in Cerritos, and Cerritos is about like 20 minutes away from Buena Park, 20 minutes away from Fullerton. Like, there are tons of people who I had been friends with who had friends in those. I had friends who went to Sunny Hills.
Yeah.
Like, it's, you know, the high school's still there.
It's very close to home for you.
Yeah, it's very hometowny, I feel. But we grew up hearing the story because I went to a school predominantly Asian people, and this was something that happened by an Asian victim, but predominantly Asian, you know, offenders.
Oh.
See that? So that's what, and also like ideal kids.
Yeah.
So while Stewart was looking into a metal box that was supposedly contained a gun, Robert and Abraham struck Stewart in the head with a baseball bat and sledgehammer.
And they're doing this because
he
lied about his name.
Yep, that was it. Because they were afraid that he had been lying about his name because he was going to turn them in.
So they were afraid that he was a snitch, or he was an undercover cop, or
maybe not an undercover cop, but just in general.
Sorry,
why did you lie?
Hollywood bringing that all.
So the boys hit him for about 20 minutes while he begged for his life.
Oh my gosh, 20 minutes is such a long time.
It is.
Like, if you were to say they hit him for 2 minutes, I'd be while he begged for his life, I'd be like
20 minutes of hearing someone, like it's an entire TV show basically. Like watching an episode of Bob's Burgers, but then that entire episode of Bob's Burgers is someone yelling and saying, "Please stop killing me."
And it's someone hitting someone else for 20 minutes.
Yes.
Like, I mean, maybe it was
There's
spaced
two
out,
of them,
and
but
they were
still.
Yeah, maybe it was spaced out, and they were like doing it and like, "Who are you? What's your real name?" And they were like interrogating him, maybe. Like, I don't know.
So Kern acted as a lookout while Munn and Charles were in another room, and they could hear Stewart screaming, "What did I do to you?" Because he didn't know.
Yeah.
And so, due to the fear of being turned in by Stewart for a robbery that had not happened yet, because robbery, hasn't happened.
Because they fucking jumped him before they even got the shit.
Yep, they planned to kill Stewart to be rid of the problem before the problem happened.
Okay, so they already were planning to kill
him because they found out he lied about his name. So they didn't go along with the plan for robbing the computer's parts store yet. So they decided to kill him first before doing anything else, to get rid of any evidence.
And it's the day of the robbery?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
They were meeting to plan.
I thought they were meeting to get ready to go do the robbery.
They didn't specify that, but I think they were just planning it. Okay. So the Sunny Hills students made preparations before the murder, which is that's how you know it's super premeditated, because they had dug a grave the day before. They dug up the grave in the backyard
that's
Abraham's
not
house.
Good. That's not a good sign.
They also purchased
in the back of his house.
In the backyard of his house is where the grave was. Oh my god, They also purchased gloves to leave no fingerprints and rehearsed the murder to make sure things would go smoothly.
These are not good kids.
No, but Stewart did not die immediately.
Who was the leader of these ones? Was it?
It was Robert, for sure. That's what they're going to start pointing out in the end.
Okay. Sorry.
So Stewart did not die immediately from the head trauma. So the other students, and some people say just Robert, forced Stewart to drink rubbing alcohol and then taped his mouth shut.
No.
He died from asphyxiation on vomit and was buried in the backyard in a pre-dug grave. So Abraham took the $100 that was in Stewart's wallet because you need to figure out what to do with everything.
Yeah.
Wearing gloves, Kern then drove Stewart's car to Compton to give the impression that Stewart had been carjacked. And it's actually not that stupid.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good, that's thought out, at least.
Then Charles pointed the blame on Robert, saying that he dug the grave and poured the rubbing alcohol down Stewart's throat, saying that it wasn't all of them, it was just Robert.
Yeah.
And it was because Robert did this because he was angered that Stewart was still alive. Like, how dare he still be alive after 20 minutes of beating? So
sorry,
I'm
not dying fast enough for you.
So by 9 p.m. that night, because
hurt her.
he's Asian and my parents also freaked out around that time, Stuart's parents became worried and started basically beeping him and calling all of his friends looking for him because they're like, where the fuck is Stewart?
Yeah.
So then
I would too.
Yeah. So an hour later, the police found his Nissan stripped in an alley because, if you leave a really nice car in kind of a down, like a more,
people know
in a cheaper neighborhood, that's what you do. And I think the police had once said that if they had left the body in the car and left it in Compton, this case probably would have never been, found out because
But they buried him.
Because they buried him in the backyard. Then you have a body in someone's backyard, and it's like obviously it was you.
And I mean, they had the gloves and everything like that, but maybe they were still worried about like DNA evidence or
in
whatever.
the car, and that's the reason why they wore gloves to drop the car off as well.
They thought they were pretty good with their premeditation, but it was a little sloppy.
Yeah, I mean they're still kids, and
you
they're
can't
still
bury them on your own property.
Don't.
You gotta bury them somewhere else because if they bury them on your property, you're the first one they're gonna look at.
Well, what's really messed up? They buried him in the only non-Asian person's backyard because Abraham Acosta is literally the only non-Asian in this whole thing. Isn't that fucked up?
Oh my god!
I was reading and I was like, so did they choose him on purpose or was that?
Or did he choose it?
I don't know.
Like, why was? No, you go to a forest, and then later on, that forest can burn.
There's no trees there. What are you talking about?
Oh, I don't know. I've never been down there.
There's not a lot of greenery, but you can't really go to a park. There's actually not that many trees. We brought off with dropping it off on a highway.
Really?
Really
I mean, I
sad.
don't know. I've never been there, so I don't.
It's like where
I'm
lived.
used to like this, where there's like a forest.
There's
and,
like sort of a foresty area in one of the parks, but it's not it's not like this. There's no crazy trail kind of things.
I mean, it's a good thing that they buried the body in the backyard because they were able to get it.
Yes,
but yes. It's unfortunate that if they had just left the body out in the open,
they probably would have gotten away with it.
Wouldn't have gotten caught.
Yeah, they probably would have gotten away. And that's what the police officer actually said during one of the interviews.
Listen, police officers, that's not something that you should be admitting to. Like, that's really sad.
Mm-hmm. So by this time, the Sunny Hill students had split up. Abraham and Munn saying that they went to parties later that night.
Did they actually go to parties?
Yeah, they just split up and they left because New Year's Eve. So.
Oh yeah, right. Sorry, New Year's.
So the Tays hired a private investigator to figure out what happened to their son because they have money and obviously they really fucking care
and because they're
son.
Rich.
Yeah, they're rich enough to actually hire someone, so they obviously would.
No, would they have? No, because the car got stripped. No, because I would have. Why didn't they just do it where like the son ran off? Like that would have been a.
These are kids.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, that's right.
They're like 16 and 17.
Yeah, but 16-year-olds run off all the time. He could have like sold everything from that car.
Also pre-internet too.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Plus, I mean, he was rich. He probably wasn't unhappy.
So it took police 3 days to track down the suspects and arrest them. But they didn't actually figure it out from the body dumping. They actually figured it out because teenagers are teenagers and they fucking talk.
Yep.
So one of the key facts that made this murder so difficult from others was the fact that so many students had known about what was happening before the murder happened and had done nothing about it. But it makes sense because someone saying, I'm going to murder that guy in high school, you don't believe him.
But it's also like, you know, that there's always that one person that's like, you never want to be that one person, but maybe you should be the one person that just goes and tells someone.
Yeah.
Because they could be serious.
But snitches get stitches. And on top of that, Robert had beaten up and threatened to shoot up that one guy's house for saying one wrong thing. So it's like, fear is a really big factor, I think, too.
Yeah.
And then one of the police officers and students said, we talked to so many kids who said, I know a friend who knows what happened, kind of thing. Gossip that's high school related.
Hearsay. He said, she said.
So one student, Greg Temesvari, who was friends with everyone involved, said he heard Robert ask Kern if he would dispose of a body and heard Robert talk to Abraham about killing someone.
Okay.
Lee Roberts, the PI, initially theorized that Robert attacked Stewart due to issues over a girl who refused to date Robert, but it wasn't true. It's just a theory.
That was, I mean, you're looking for theories and you're looking for like motives and stuff like that.
You always throw a girl in there.
It's always a girl.
Yeah. Lee was the one who tracked down and interviewed Greg, like figured out like Greg might know something and passed the necessary information to the police officers. So the PI really did help this investigation because police officers, I get it. They're very,
they have other stuff to do.
They have a lot of other stuff to do, whereas a PI would be able to focus just on your case. And
they probably, PIs can go about it in a different
They don't have to do
way.
anything legally as much because
police officers are supposed to
do more
stay
legal
by the book.
things. Because they get in way more trouble for it and you get personally accountable.
Because it can come back and bite your investigation in the ass if a cop is has some misconduct and anything like that, and you're not going to risk your case.
And on top of that, you risk every other case you've ever done if you ever get caught doing anything else.
Exactly.
So after the police interviewed Greg, the whole case became clear. The true story started to unfold.
Okay.
Greg said in an interview to the Tribune, I figured out who killed him. I knew everything that was going on. He said he didn't tell anyone because look what happened to Stewart. He got killed, and that was just for lying about his name.
Ooh, that's
on the nose of why he wouldn't come forward and say anything, because it's like, well, he just literally murdered someone.
Because you're dealing with the mafia.
Well,
you're dealing potentially with the Chinese mafia,
but also a very unstable individual who just killed someone.
Yes.
So I see what he's saying right there.
You're gonna sit down and you're not gonna say anything, and you're gonna hope that you don't ever have your friends dig your grave.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
he also said it wasn't that unusual for boys who are already wealthy to be planning a robbery because you can never have too much money.
Oh,
true. And said this really kind of sad thing and said it's a good thing I was on vacation or else I might have been involved too, just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
You know what? That's true.
Yeah. And when asked if he had done something, if he would have done something to stop the murder, he honestly replied, probably not. And
no.
I understand where he comes from for that.
Because this dude was just murdered for lying about his name. And so, like, yeah, I could see. This isn't a situation where I'm wondering why no one came to the police like last time with the Burger King murder, where I was like, why did nobody fucking say anything? But it's just like,
this guy was unstable, had been at other people, and had killed this guy, and literally did everything. Disposed of the body, covered the evidence, did everything. So it's like he's really thinking some things through, which is a lot more than a lot of other murders.
Time.
Yeah,
not
and if it is,
time.
holy.
I mean, it may be his first time. It's not the first time he's seen it done.
Yeah.
And if it is, I mean, I could be wrong there too. I mean, who the fuck knows? That is horrifying.
Yep.
Kids are so scary.
So when they were waiting to be booked, Lieutenant Tim Brown would say about them, there wasn't any emotions. There was no remorse, no anguish, not even any fear.
Now, are emotions with like teenage Asian boy, like, is that not typical?
You're supposed to kind of hide it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to kind of just take it and hide it.
Because I feel like grief and all of those emotions are
But
not
you
acceptable
still,
emotions.
but you still feel it. You're supposed to.
But I mean, just because you feel it doesn't necessarily mean that you're portray it.
But see, the extra thing was one of the boys sat shackled to the chair doing his calculus homework.
I mean, priorities.
Whatever, you
Gotta go to school, man. Gotta have that education.
The difference between this and all the other murders that we kind of cover is the fact that, like, I do think that Asian shame is one of those things I really strongly believe in, because they all pled guilty instead of, like, I really hate it when you're guilty and you're like, no, but I didn't do it, and then fucking drag on a trial.
Yeah.
No.
And then you try to tell some bullshit story that it was, she got kidnapped by
or whatever
these
bullshit.
two random dudes.
I know. So Albert pled guilty to first-degree murder and was tried as a juvenile in exchange for acting as a key prosecution witness. So he was the first to talk and got a more lenient sentencing.
And I think something is said about, like, once you get caught, just fucking, you got caught.
Yeah.
Like,
you're gonna serve your time.
If you can do a crime and not get caught, I mean, kudos. Fuck you for doing the crime. But, like, but when you get caught, own up.
Yeah,
like,
just own up to it.
Caught.
Yeah.
Like,
that's it.
Stop lying after
You're done
that.
now. But I mean, it's because so many people can get free even if you lie.
Yeah, but I mean, I bet you these fucking kids probably could have gotten free too. But they were like, you know what? No. And their parents were probably
like, no.
You can either
You've
go
already slandered
to jail
this,
or you can die in this house.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't disagree with that parenting, so I can't even say anything about
just
it.
Like, they were probably far more scared of their parents than they were these police officers, because they were like, you brought shit, like,
like, you really just brought a ton of shame and shit into this family.
Yeah, you dishonored your family, and I'm learning that is a big deal.
It's a big deal. So Munn also pled guilty. Kern and Abraham were convicted of first-degree murder. Abraham being convicted of ambushing Albert, while Kern was acquitted of that charge because he didn't ambush him. Mm-hmm. Abraham was the only non-Asian member of the group and was described as slow and kind of weird by his classmates, which is what they try to use as, his defense. While his public defender said that her client was slow, another source said that he's not nearly as stupid as they're making him out to be.
No.
So he was probably like a normal kid.
Yeah, he's probably slower comparatively to the computer genius Asians.
Yeah, but or maybe he just played it up more because he thought maybe he can get away with it and maybe get sent with a much smaller sentencing, which I would also do, I guess, if I knew something bad was going to happen.
I guess it depends on how they're defining slow. You know what I mean? Like,
So anyways, even though Abraham had taken the $100 from Stewart's wallet, he was also acquitted of charges of killing for financial gain, because it didn't really seem like that's what it was. Yeah. He just took the money because he wants to make it look like it was a robbery, and it was already there.
He didn't kill him for the financial gain. He killed him.
He was already there, and he was already dead, so he took the money.
Basically, that's sort of how I'm taking it.
Yeah.
Respect.
So Abraham was sent to a California Youth Authority facility. Charles was also sent to a CYA and was released when he turned 25 because he's the one who talked, so he got out faster. Mm-hmm. Kern and Munn were sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. They both asked the courts to be sent to a CYA system, like a juvenile system, but was denied due to the severity of the crime.
Mm-hmm. Good.
But in 2012, Kern Kim was granted parole. And his parole was due to the fact that he had no previous criminal record, had not been involved in gangs, drugs, or alcohol, and furthered his education while in prison, and also caused no trouble while he was in prison. So, I think that they decided at that point maybe he had enough remorse about what he happened. Like, your brain does develop a lot from the time you were 16.
Was he one of the ones that attacked it?
He's the one, he was a lookout guy, and he's the one who dropped off the car.
Yeah, I mean...
He was still involved in it.
He was involved. However, he never killed anybody. Yeah. And it was probably a situation of do it or be killed.
Yeah. And if they honestly really believed that Robert had ties to the mafia, there is a real and present fear there too. Mm-hmm. So, he's free now, but, I get it. Like, he lives his life now. So during the person that seemed to be the ringleader, they all pointed a finger to, was Robert.
Yeah.
That's the person. You choose one person.
He's in the backyard.
Yeah, and you choose the one person you can, and he's him and Abraham were the ones who like attacked Stewart, but yeah.
It probably was Robert though.
But it was probably Robert who was in charge of the whole thing. So during trial, he denied masterminding the murder and said that he believed that Stewart had put explosives in his house and would kill. And if he hadn't killed Stewart, Stewart would have killed him. And that's why he had to kill Stewart.
But he just said that he wasn't the one that masterminded. So
no, but he's saying that that's the reason why we had to kill Stewart. Though all of us had to kill Stewart.
We all had to do it because he was going to blow up my
house. Yes. I don't know why.
Man.
The imagination of teenagers.
I'm like, it was probably a situation where like he probably said, I'm going to blow up your whole house.
But he didn't beat up the guy after.
It's
so.
just,
he said he would blow. He
wow.
would. Yeah, who knows? But the juror of the trial, a juror of the trial who was anonymous, said there was no doubt that he was the mastermind. He tried to lie and blame others for it. But if there was no Robert Chan, Stuart Tay would still be alive today. Mm-hmm. On May 3rd, 1994, Robert Chan was convicted of first-degree murder. The jury took less than 3 hours to reach the verdict. And it was because he came out and said he did it. That's really what it was.
I mean, yeah.
He said,
he did it.
A juror said, I was surprised at how fast the verdict took, but there really wasn't nothing to decide. He had gone on the witness stand and said he did it, and he knew what he was doing. It's like the prosecutor said, he convicted himself. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, you know what? I appreciate that fact.
Yeah, no, I really
didn't drag on the situation. You admitted to your fault, and you're going to take...
Why did it take 3 hours for the fucking jury to come back?
Who knows? I think it's like trying to figure out what his... what he should get for doing suggestions, and I think that's the only thing.
Do they do that? I thought the judge.
I think the jury suggests what they should do.
And there's probably more than one murder, or more than one charge and stuff like that. Yeah, so they probably
have to vote on each individual one and everything. So Robert was sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Good.
In 1995, Alfred and Linda Tay, which are Stewart's parents, were awarded by the courts over $1 million from 4 of the killers and $100,000 from a 5th killer. They didn't say who the killers and which ones they got, but they basically got $1.1 million from the whole thing.
Good.
The murder was known as the honor roll murder because they're all honor roll students. But
and it sounds
OC
good
registry
in the media.
and time, because it sounds really good. And
no, it does.
And it's a real eye catcher because you're like, you don't expect those kinds of people to be doing something like this.
No,
and
no one ever does.
It was due to overachieving and studious nature of the participants involved. Many of the perpetrators had planned to attend elite colleges and universities, including Ivy League schools. Like, they were on track to at least,
these were quote unquote good kids.
Yes.
And they didn't look, though they
didn't look the part. They didn't nothing about them fit the profile of a troubled child who was going to go kill someone.
Yeah. With potential, like, they didn't look like potential mafia people, like, and they had money, so why would they think that they'd be criminals, like go and steal things? Like, it's just it's kids being kids trying to look cool in front of their friends, and they get caught up in the wrong crowd, maybe, or it's like the way that they blow off their steam. Like, I don't know, because I don't know. I'm not
There
Asian,
is a lot of
so
pressure. There is a lot of pressure put on, like, a lot of good grades and stuff, and always doing better than everyone else. And, I'm not saying all kids who have good grades are obviously good people or anything like that. But usually, you do have a lot of stress because of it too. And I think, like, it was
very
one of those,
demanding.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, I went to a school with a lot of overachieving, like, Asian kids, and I was like, holy fuck, like, this is what it's like. So Renee Lynch of the LA Times said that sophisticated murder scheme and the sheer senselessness of the killing grabbed headlines from the start. OC residents were shocked because the assailants and the victim were such unlikely suspects.
Yeah, because it really is a situation where, like, people think that kids that do this kind of thing look
are always
or act a certain way
or have bad
like
parenting
poor
or something,
and like grow up on the wrong side. And it's like, no, even people with all the advantages in the world, who grow up with the right name and in the right area, can still end up being a total piece of shit that gets upset one day and decides, you know what, I'm just going to go kill somebody. I
did read in a comment that some people obviously want to blame someone, and they said, like, oh, well, just because his parents had a lot of money didn't mean that he came from a good family. He just Like they probably just bought him everything he wanted, but they weren't really there. And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Every family has their own shit.
Yeah,
and that doesn't excuse
nothing that
anyone's
they
behavior.
did. Like they're in my opinion, they were still good parents. They cared. They figured out their kid was missing very quickly, and you know, it was a very unfortunate situation is really what it was. But I remember this because obviously this happened in 1992 when I was too young to remember this murder. And we had to move to that area until I was in high school. Until 1990. I think around the same time I moved there, but I was really young. But in 2002, when I was in high school, Justin Lin, who did the third, fourth, and fifth Fast and the Furious movies, directed a movie called Better Luck Tomorrow, starring Sung Kang and John Cho, and it was very loosely based on this murder. And that's when this movie came out, everyone in my school talked about it because, first of all, we never see any movies with like people who are Asian, the entire cast, and secondly, of them doing something bad. That's like we're always, you know what I mean? We're always typecast as like the good kids. So to see like I guess like this and then also find out it was a real murder that it was loosely based on. Obviously there was like different things happening in that one in the movie instead, but
creative allegiance.
And it was he even said it was very loosely based on it. He was reading the headlines, he followed the story, and then he decided to direct a movie about the story a little bit. But I thought it was just super interesting because like it was one of those stories that I remember as a kid because everyone talked about it in school.
It's just like, it's shocking. It's something that's going to send waves, like shock waves through everything because like all the other parents are going to be like, were you involved?
Yeah.
Like everybody then has to like reevaluate their child
because all of them were like they know
about their child.
Yeah, it's like not only were they having good grades, they're also like community leaders. They were like YMCA counselors. They were like doing a ton of other stuff. So you just never expect these kinds of kids to be doing that because you assume they're to be too busy. I hate people in London sometimes.
Oh man. Sorry to everybody that has to listen to that fucking car horn that's like not stopping. I guess
why is it not stopping?
Oh, there it goes.
I literally thought at some point like maybe they fell asleep on the.
I don't know. I was starting to think maybe there was a car accident. Maybe I should not be bitchy about it. Stop ruining my podcast.
You can hear it when we heard car accidents here. You always hear it, and then we run out. Just look at it in the balcony. It's for assholes.
Everybody wants to see a car crash.
Yeah. But an interesting other fact was the fact that the movie Better Luck Tomorrow was only greenlit because of the backing of MC Hammer.
Interesting. Why?
Because apparently Justin Lin couldn't get the funding for the movie.
Yeah, but why MC Hammer?
He seemed interested. Like he had given MC Hammer the script, had read it. He was like, "Oh, that sounds cool," and he was literally like, "I might as well ask." And sometimes you might as well ask.
And then always ask.
And then he started off his career, and then he did all those Fast and the Furious movies, and now he's doing a ton of other great stuff. So good for him.
Great for him. No, I liked him.
The movie was good though. I remember I watched it when I was in high school, and it was really good.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, but it's
But it probably didn't make its way to.
No, it didn't make it to mainstream movie theaters, and I doubt it. So thank you for listening. Hopefully you're still alive next week to listen to our podcast and you're not bored with us or mad at us for something. Like and review us and rate us. Please rate us and review us. I'd really appreciate it. And you can listen to us on a lot of things like iTunes, Google.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they're already listening to us, they already know they're already listening to us, Angela. If they're
listening to us and rate us as well because we really appreciate it.
Yes. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.